Got a question asking if a landlord could, I guess, suppose limit the number of firearms that are kept in an apartment. What if someone has 20 or 30 firearms? Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our videos. Now, before we get started on the question here, I probably said on the channel on a number of occasions here that courts, when we're looking at, from an eviction perspective, basically, courts will only enforce material breaches of a lease or rental agreement. Okay, the breach has to be material. There's a thing in the law about material breaches and immaterial breaches. The classic one that I always use is if the landlord allowed dogs, for example, on the property. You could have a pet, but put a weight limitation on that pet, like they can only be no more than 25 pounds. And the pet was like a pet chihuahua. Maybe they were like 20 pounds at the beginning. That's probably a big chihuahua. Let's insert another small dog, basically, and that dog gained a little bit of weight over the years. They became 27 pounds, and then the landlord goes, aha, you violated the no pet provision over 25 pounds. Your pet is 27 pounds. Okay, that's going to be probably seen as a trivial breach or an immaterial breach. Okay, the intent of the that term was, hey, we don't want like a horse in there that weighs 1,000 pounds in the unit. Okay, the dog gained like 2 pounds. Okay, get out of here, get out of court type deal. Now, the question becomes, okay, could a landlord hypothetically limit the number of firearms? Okay, well, to me, my question, if a landlord came to me with that question, I would go, well, do you also limit in your lease agreement the number of kitchen knives that a tenant can have in their home? See, that kind of spinning that around there. Okay, is that reasonable or not? Well, I want to probably tell you, in my career of doing these, I probably never had a landlord bring up to me, hey, Rob, I got in my lease agreement, the tenant can only have 20 kitchen knives. Okay, and my question at that point is, okay, what's the difference regarding firearms? Okay, because someone's saying, okay, might be of an opinion that 20 or 30 firearms is a lot. Okay, and that might be from someone that has never grown up with guns or firearms around in the home, or that's not normalized. Okay, because I'll tell you right now, I know a lot more people that have more than 30 guns. Okay, it's real easy to get 30 firearms. If we're going to call the definition of that, my AR people, the lowers themselves, they're probably no bigger than 10, 12 inches long. You could have 30 lowers and fit that in a shoebox. Okay, should that be illegal? What about pistols? I could get a small moving box right now and probably fill up that box with probably 30 pistols, and that would be quite fit nicely in there. I guess the question would become this, and I know I could see some landlords, come to me, Rob, who needs 30 guns? Okay, well, my thing would be, what business is it of yours? What are we going to limit the number of golf clubs that a tenant has? You can only have 30 golf clubs in the home. Okay, a golf club could be used as a weapon, particularly those that like to make the divots on the golf course, and not put them back. Okay, well, what's the difference? Okay, and I get this a lot, particularly on landlords that don't want to limit like animals and stuff. I don't want the potential damage or the liability. Okay, well, here's the deal, folks. Owning a gun is not illegal. Okay, and I know like California has conditioned us to believe in that, if you own a firearm, or God forbid you have a concealed weapons permit, you're a bad guy. Okay, we have to get out of that mindset. Okay, because again, owning firearms is not illegal. Okay, so having a limitation like that, that's kind of like out of the ordinary, to me, it seems arbitrary and capricious. But that's just me. Okay. Now, it's a little different if, the landlord knows that, hey, guess what? That tenant has gotten problems. The police have been out there, like the tenant might not be storing those firearms properly, or they're engaged in criminal activity, like he's selling the guns out of the home. Okay, that's a whole different story. Okay, because that's, if you're committing a crime, using the premises for an unlawful purpose, or you're committing you assault someone with a firearm, that type of deal. Okay, that's actionable. Okay, but having the guns themselves are not. Okay, so I don't think a limitation in a lease would probably be enforceable, but your mileage is going to vary. Probably in the cities, you might get a ear from a judge, but out where guns are normal, that type of stuff, to me it seems ridiculous. But don't trust a guy on YouTube or on TikTok to give you any legal advice. Okay, so if you want to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers and duke it out in court, I guess you can do that. So, folks, landlords, if you're facing a tenant situation where, hey, the tenant is, violating the lease, like a material version of the lease, or causing a nuisance or committing crimes on properties, that type of stuff, and you're in the Northern California area and you need help trying to figure that stuff out, reach out below to our website. We can give you a case review. We can talk about these things in more in depth. Okay, and see if we can help you out. Okay, put your comments, questions down below. Until next time, folks, I know this was a long one. I'll talk to you then. Thanks.